Hey guys. Hey guys. Welcome. Hey Slade. There we go. Hey.
Hey, hey.
What's up?
Oh, it's awesome to be on with you.
I'm glad you're here with me. So we're gonna give it like 5 more minutes for people to start joining, for us to like welcome in, and then I'll do the intro, and then I'll have you introduce yourself and everything.
Okay. I I will be here. I'm just gonna go like this for now.
Sounds good. All right, everybody, we're gonna get started shortly. We are just waiting a couple minutes for people to join and get settled, and then we'll be starting at 8:05. We are so glad to have you here. It's gonna be fun. All right, so we are starting at 8:05. So since we're starting at 8:05, I'm going to start the intro. So hey guys, and welcome to Divine Testimonies. I'm going to be your host, Tatiana, and we are back with the series Healing for the Holidays, where we are trying to share the testimony of those who have dealt with grief during the holidays in hopes that we will help those who are dealing with grief this holiday and also give them a safe space to share their testimony, because in everything God brings glory. So tonight I am joined by Pastor Mark Gittens. I think so many people were so excited for this one, and I was really excited to sit down with him. So much has happened over this year, between our relationship and just in general, and I'm so excited that we finally got him on the show. So welcome.
Thank you.
And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mark. I always tell people, don't call me Pastor Mark, just call me Mark. I'm just a normal person like everybody else, and, of course, I have 7 children, 2 grandchildren, and so many godchildren, I can't even count anymore.
Amen.
I lost count.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome. So before we jumped into the questions, in previous weeks, we had everybody share kind of who they lost, so they could kind of explain who they're preferencing when they're talking about dealing with their grief.
Well, all right. So I'm going to preference it by this. So, I recently lost my mom last November 9th. And I actually lost her on the same day that I lost my dad 31 years before. So when I was 17, I lost my dad, and 49, I lost my mom. So, that's like a big part, but I also I want to make sure I let people know that loss is not always death. Too. A lot of people we don't get that because we don't give room for grief when people walk out of our lives or people hurt us. But, the ambiguous loss or loss that may not be death is sometimes just as difficult for us in the holiday season, especially. And I want to give acknowledgement to that.
Amen.
So my mom is the biggest one, the freshest one per se, but yet there are, there's a lot, loss, grief, and that whole cycle is quite, prevalent in people's lives. So I'm sure we're thinking now, like maybe they didn't lose someone physically, but yet they may have lost someone in their life, a relationship, all those things. And those need to be grieved too, because grief definitely is designed to bring some sort of healing to us if we process it well, so that's one of that.
Sounds good. That was a great take on it. I think that was so lovely, because I definitely feel like we kind of forget about those losses being a form of grief and having to grieve those relationships and losing them, because while they might not be physically gone, they're still physically gone from your life. So definitely love that you included that in. So the first question I have for you tonight is, what does grief look like for you?
Well for me, when I'm going through the process, grief really drives me to do a lot of contemplating. Like, it brings me inside myself. Like, nothing makes me look at me inside like grief does. Like, when you feel that pain, that hurt, that loss, it's probably the most productive way for me to actually pause and look inside. Like, I don't look and it's because of the elevation of pain is so great, it actually causes me to and most people to stop and then look in. And so then if we're already unhealthy and we look in, we're overwhelmed with a mess. If we're here, it looks different, but it does definitely make us take a U-turn and looking within ourselves and kind of say, like, who am I? What's my purpose? And we begin to really start. Inventory becomes to happen, looking at the mess that we have or all the things that we have in order. It really is a time of reflection. So grief for me really looks like a lot of reflection, and a lot of meaningful conversations. So that's kind of what for me. It also makes me reflect on my own life and how long will I be here? What matters? What things am I wasting my time with? Because you
Mm,
think we do, like we're like we start evaluating things and start saying, is this really worth it? Like, is
mm,
my energy to be angry about this? Is it worth, spending my money or my time for this? Like, you start saying, because you realize that, life is very short. And so it kind of makes you look at those things too. So,
yeah. So with that, um, and with reflecting, what is something that helps you in your grief, especially with
well,
reflecting?
honestly, it's really getting off my island
Mm,
and people to connect with. I don't think there's anything greater in going through grief than having people to go along with you. In the Bible,
mm,
like sorrow with those who sorrow. That really
amen.
is like that partnership. And I know that it's kind of like um, unhealthy grief isolates us. We don't want to be around anybody. Sometimes I see people when they're really grieving, they'll like, I'll see them months later and be like, where were you? Well, I was really going through a rough time. But really, it really requires us getting off the island and finding people to journey with us in it.
Mm,
Really, the strongest form of love, in my opinion, is to find. It's easy. Everyone has friends when things are great. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
everything's wonderful. You got, but when things are broken
Mm,
and things are hurt, to know that you have people that are going to walk along the side of you, to
amen.
me, is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
It really is a thing. So for me, it really is getting off the island and finding people to walk along the side with me,
Mm,
through it, and they can't fix it. Like, I always tell people, or I've heard it said before, it's not about curing, it's about
mm,
caring.
mm,
Cure, but I think there's an element that's outside of us, is someone else. Having those healthy relationships with people who are willing to walk along the side of us in it is probably one of the most important things. And it's helped me the most. It really has. It's helped me the very most.
mm.
So,
I love that what you said when you said it's not curing, but it's caring, because I feel like so many people, especially when we're trying to help others through loss, whether that be, like you said, with a friendship loss or somebody that hasn't actually gone or somebody that is gone, right? Trying to help somebody through that, we want to fix it. We want to, oh, what can I do to make this better? And it's like, you can't make it better.
mm,
But you being here and caring makes it hurt a little less. It just isn't fixed, though. But I
yeah.
love that you said
Yep.
that, because that's a beautiful take on it.
I think like this, walk with me. That's
Mm,
all I ask. Walk with me. That's why some people, and I've had this experience with both my parents dying, people say the dumbest things to try to comfort us. Like, stop saying dumb things and just walk. Like,
yeah.
you don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's better, you know. Some people's first knee-jerk reaction is to remind people that they're in heaven. Oh, they're in a better place. That doesn't help me right now. You
Yeah.
know? So it's like, just walk with me and say, I don't know what to even say to you, but I just want to let you know I'm present. I'm here. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think that's really important too, especially now, the holidays. And I always tell people who are in love will miss somebody just as much in a non-holiday season as a holiday season. A
Yeah.
normal day, you'll miss that person just as much. What often happens though during the holidays, we tend to gather together.
Mm,
Absence of that person may be a little bit more concentrate or realized, and so I think that's why we need some extra grace and compassion towards people that have lost people, especially during this time when they're used to the gathering together, the gifts and stuff, and they know that that person won't be
yeah.
present, so it's a big deal. Yeah.
Makes so much sense. I love your take so far. It's you're giving some gems. I love it. I love it. So many people say that healing isn't linear. Would you say that this is true?
Absolutely.
Mm,
um and this is, we grieve, so our grief is as unique as our fingerprints.
mm,
That's
I love.
what I say to people. And that is why we need to be listening more and trying to tap in more, because it's not a one, like, like for instance, one person came and like told another widow, oh, well, get rid of the clothes, it will help you. Just get rid of their clothes and,
Mm,
donate them and get rid. But she wasn't ready. You
yeah.
he wasn't ready. The other lady did it within a week of the husband's death. And I'm like, we don't grieve. We're so unique in our grief that's why it takes a lot of just listening and following that person and realizing that there's going to be these ups and these downs and all around. You know, some people will appear strong in the beginning, and some people have delayed certain feelings, the anger, the feeling of just rejection of the person because they're gone or whatever. So it really is about that uniqueness, that fingerprint, and we just got to really pay attention to the person that's before us, and better listening and just be an ear perhaps more than an advisor. We need listeners more than we need advisors. We need people who just let us speak even when we're not speaking words.
So this one isn't in the questions, but it was triggered by what you had said. So
good.
From your experience, right, with both the losses plus many other losses, being that you're connected to a lot of people, right? With people, would you say that through time it eventually you're continuing to get better at all, or is it that you're just learning how to cope with it?
Okay, I would have to say probably the latter. I think we get stronger, personally, this is my person, I'm stronger to deal with the grief, but grief is not minimized. I'm stronger. And so, because the reason why we grieve, whether the person has died or has left us, is because we have loved.
Amen.
Because time and space doesn't minimize our love for them. The grief kind of really is as potent as it is. I know people say, time heals all things, or the longer the time. I don't really think it's because you're feeling better. I think you're stronger. You're probably stronger. And so the grief doesn't feel the same intensity, but you love them the same. So therefore, that's why I know that it can't be that the grief is getting better, as much, in my opinion, that the strength of that person to kind of hold on is getting the resolve of just holding on and focusing the best they can on the love part, on the life part, and not the loss part and the death part. I think that's what changes and what makes us feel like we're getting better.
I love that. I love that so much. So God, the word tells us that God gives us the strength. How would you say that God has helped you in your healing?
Well, it's kind of like this. God definitely it's his grace that gives us the strength. However, how he gives that is not very standard. Like, I think I get what he wants me to have at that moment. Because it's kind of like this, we'd love to get all of the money up front. When you lottery, you have the choice. You can get payments or you can get a thing. And I know we always want the whole thing, but I feel like we'd probably waste so much of that. And I think when it comes to that strength and God bringing what he brings to us, I think he gives us a little bit as we need it on the journey. And it's really just a walk of faith for us then. Then I have to count on him every day. That, so I really got to go back. So we don't get the whole thing because we probably use it all up and then need it. We'd be back for more. Whereas you kind of see God just kind of giving me a little bit of what I need each day and meet those immediate needs, I think one of the bad things that we'll do often is we'll decide to ignore it, all this grief, try to just say, I'm just going to move on past it. I think it's very easy to it. I think Americans, especially Christian Americans, I think grief is often handled very unhealthy, where it is something very beautiful that God meets us with his strength. But I believe we often try to just bypass it by being busy or finding something to numb it. Those are the things that we do, and instead of allowing it to work in us, which really just builds our faith and our confidence in God. So,
Yeah.
but I do know, like, for a lot of the different losses that I've experienced, I've like tried to fill my life up with ministry work and focusing on the next thing or whatever, and not really grieving it. And it will definitely end up making us somewhat spiritually and emotionally sick later on too. I think we see bad, unhealthy grieving in our lives simply by looking at like what's going on. Like, we end up getting angry for no reason, the bitterness, different things. Our relationship with God gets a little funky. We go through motions more, but I think it's really important that grieving is healthy and important. And it's also a vehicle of us really connecting ourselves with God in a closer way. It wasn't until Adam and Eve were in trouble, that they really, they needed God in a way that they just couldn't have never have imagined. They needed him, and I think we do too.
Yeah, because Pammy had said something. I love that you brought that up, because Pammy had said that when I was talking with her, and she was like, he's God with you on the bathroom floor. And I just love that, because it just shows how he just walks beside us when we're going through. And it's not that he's just waiting for us on the other side. He's walking alongside of us.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I believe that his presence is what matters the most. Like, I think some people want God to be like some genie in a bottle for us here. And they like wonder where God's at when he's right there, and his presence is extremely important on this side of eternity, especially he's walking with us, he's in the storm with us. He doesn't always stop the pain or prevent, but he is definitely willing to always be with his people. And part of grief is to knowing that we never grieve alone, that God is with us, and hopefully we have Christian community that also can walk along the side of us too. It's hard, they don't always know what to do, but I think just being available to that, it really makes a difference to know that you're not alone.
I love that. So what would you say to somebody that is dealing with grief this holiday season?
Well, I would say don't isolate. And I would say bring your whole self wherever you are. So, like, I'll just use church as an example first. Like, if you're grieving or you're sad, bring your sadness to worship, because God wants to hold you. Your family, if you're going to be with your family, and it's a joyous holiday, I understand it. But if you're sad, bring your sadness, bring where you are and who you are, your whole self there. Because people who really understand, who love you, will accept that, and that's what we want. We don't want your fake you, or your put together you, or your it all together you. Come broken. Let us deal with it. Because that's what real love is. It's about loving the person that's before me wherever they are. Not, oh, when you're happy and everything's great, I'm gonna love you and I'm gonna be glad you're here. I'm going to be glad to hear when you're bawling your eyes out and I'm getting a box of tissues out and and saying, yeah, Merry Christmas, but we really do miss that one person that's not here right now. Acknowledge it and giving space for that. I think, I don't want to get emotional, but I think about my mom. She's so awesome to me. Knowing that she was not here for so many events in our lives lately, it's been so gut-wrenching for me. But I started crying when my daughter bought her house and my mom was there, and my kids all got around me and they let me be exactly where I was. If you've never loved, you'll never grieve. The reality of it.
Yeah.
And I loved my mom so much. So, Christmas and all those things would just be another day that we miss her very much. And it's okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry some days, to be mad, to wish for something different. It's okay. Because God knows it. And that's where we're at. then that's where we're at. And hopefully people are in a safe place that they can be, that someone says, come on. We don't want them to say, it's okay.
Amen.
So if you're watching and you're not someone who has lost, but you are with someone that has lost, let them know it's okay. Give them permission to be wherever they are at that moment, because to me, that's the most precious thing you can do for someone. Don't try to fix it, because you're going to mess it up. You're going to say something dumb. Let it be.
Amen.
That's important.
Oh, I love that. See, I wish I was there so I could hug you, because I love how honest and transparent you just were in that moment. Because so many times we don't want to be vulnerable because we don't want to make others uncomfortable. But I love that you said bring your whole self, because at the end of the day, if you're grieving, if you're crying, if your pain brings somebody uncomfortableness, that's not somebody who truly wants to be in a full and whole relationship and a healthy relationship with you. So I love that in that moment you allowed yourself to be vulnerable, because I think that that's so important.
Well, Miss Erin, my good friend Miss Erin Atchison,
Miss Erin,
her mother died this week.
Yeah.
And I got to talk to her on the phone today. Like, we were texting back and forth, but we got to talk on the phone today. And to hear her voice and to know what she's going through. You know, her mom was 64. Her dad's a pastor. He's, you know, just to think all that she's been through this week and all that she will go through, you know, losing her mom, and just how overwhelming that is. Like, you know, wanting to just be with her. Like, my whole thought brain from the time I knew her mom was dying was like, I just want to be there with her, to be present, you know. But, you know, I think about that just, and so wanting to just hug her, like you said about me, like, you know, just be present and to be able to let her know that we stand with you in this.
Amen.
You know, I think it's so important. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Oh, see, I could talk to you all night, but I know that Instagram won't let me keep the whole video. But I want to thank you so much for sharing your testimony, as well as giving such great gems. And I love that at the beginning you said, I tell people not to call me Pastor Mark, because I'm just Mark, because I feel like so many times and the Bible tells us that we should consider before becoming leaders, right? Because in so many aspects, people begin to look at us as, you're just this leader. I'm going to hold you to these aspects, and they kind of forget that you're human, right? You're human just like we are human, and you grieve, you mess up, you fall short in it. And it's not because, I'm going to hold them more accountable than I'm going to hold myself. It's like, I have to be gracious with them. I have to love them the same way that anybody else would be loved in this moment. So I love that you're very, very adamant on reminding all of us that you are human.
Right. And I'm not you. I am who I am.
Amen.
Because what if I can't do what I do? Then I disappear. I am who I am, not what I do. So many people, of course, they identify by what they do. Yeah. And when that's not possible, then they have a lot of worry about who am I. So I think that's important for me, you know. And I think what you do is great. I totally celebrate the ministry that you do, and the way you just bring out what you bring out. There's such a life in you. I know that God has so much more. I do really know that, Tatiana.
You just always.
I support you. Where do I send my money at? Where do I send my money, my donation?
Listen,
I want to.
You know what? Just add it to my
put
P
your
tag, you know.
Cash App on there, your Venmo, because I'm putting some money on it.
Listen,
I love you, and I'm honored on today. I'm honored.
I'm so honored that you were on, and I'm so grateful that God is truly, because I can even see how all of it's working, like how us working together, how the community, like our church coming together, and the transparency, the love, and I just love it all. I just love it all. And I'm so excited that you're here tonight, because I see God moving. And I told my mama, I told her, I said, once we get up on the hill, I don't know what's coming, but a revelation is coming. I said, a redemption's coming, a revival's coming.
Amen.
And I feel it. I feel it. So I'm
Amen.
so grateful that you came on, and I'm so grateful that you were transparent tonight and shared your testimony.
Thank you very much. I wore a hat because I haven't worked for 4 weeks.
Heard.
So I don't,
He said, listen, I got my fresh cut.
I don't want my barber to be mad at me.
That's why I would have been like, because I don't cut his hair.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Of course. I love you, and I will see you guys very soon. We will not have a episode next week, but tune in on Saturday to our live, or if you're in the Sunbury area or can get to the Sunbury area, join us in person. Join us in person, because it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit, literally, because it's our candlelight service.
She said. What she said.
All right. Well, I love you, and you have a great night.
All right. Peace.